There's over 30 active cannabinoids that we're aware of at this time, and they have very powerful anti-inflammatory properties.
You are listening to The Dr. Haley Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you optimize your health. Each episode, there will be an interview or a message to help you discover better health. We will be featuring health radicals on the show to bring new ideas to the table, as well as doubling down on key fundamentals to support you living your best life. Your host is no other than the founder of Haley Nutrition, Dr. Michael Haley.
This is the Dr. Haley Show podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Haley, the show host, and today's guest is Ethan Pompeo. His life took a turn for the worst when he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Pandas as a kid. Now his company, Green Valley Nutrition, is transforming the health and lives of others with simple, effective wellness solutions for the whole family. Ethan, thank you for joining me on this podcast. You know, I think we are going to have a great discussion because a lot of my followers, a lot of people that listen also have autoimmune problems, and it seems like it's something on the rise. Not quite sure why that is. I have some ideas why that might be, but there's something you can do about it. And in your case, you took charge of your life. Tell us about Pandas. What is it? How did it get you? Why did it get you? And what'd you do about it?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me today, man. I appreciate it. I love spreading awareness about this, and it's something that very few people are aware of. Even physicians struggle to diagnose this condition, and I myself was misdiagnosed for much of my teenage years. Pandas is pediatric autoimmune neurological disorders associated with strep. It's a mouthful. It raises eyebrows when I say it. Essentially, it's a strep throat infection that causes an unusual autoimmune response in the body, namely excess production of strep antibodies. Antibodies are one of the few compounds that can cross the blood-brain barrier, meaning when these compounds are produced in excess, they can enter areas of the body where they're not supposed to hang out and cause issues, inflammation. And for me, it was inflammation of the basal ganglia, which is the motor cortex of the body. So I was left with all kinds of neurological symptoms from this unusual autoimmune response, where I exhibited motor tics, loss of motor function, severe anxiety, other emotional symptoms associated with the issues I was dealing with. I had anger, rage, some depression as a teenager dealing with all these issues. I had obsessive compulsive disorder, all these compulsive thoughts and movements and rituals. And quite literally, I went from being normal and healthy one day to dealing with these tics and symptoms the next. So it was very rapid onset.
I want to back up a little bit because, you know, growing up, I had strep throat a number of times. And I would go and get treated or get antibiotics for it. And, you know, my sore throat would go away and I would think I was okay. But it seemed like this was something that just kept on coming up time and time again. Did that happen to you before you got this Pandas?
Yes, I had recurring strep throat infection throughout my childhood and was on and off antibiotics, but I'll be honest, a lot of times I would test positive for strep even if I was asymptomatic. I wouldn't have any symptoms and I wouldn't even know I was sick.
Yeah. So do you think the antibiotics helped you or hurt you at the time? Or what should you have done or what could you have done differently?
So when I actually got a treatment protocol, I wasn't actually diagnosed with Pandas until I was in my early 20s. So I went through a
But the
decade
strep
of
throat,
just,
though. I'm talking about the
yeah.
strep throat.
Yeah, with the strep throat, I don't know. It's difficult to look back and tell you. I think originally the 7 days of antibiotics or whatever that I was given was not enough to really rid my body of the infection. So it wasn't until I got the Pandas diagnosis that I had long course antibiotics. I think it was 60 days or something that it really purged my body of the strep bacteria so that I could have a fighting chance.
Okay, so possibly every time you were treating strep, you were possibly just strengthening it because you would treat it but not get rid of it completely. So possibly stronger variations were
It's
remaining
very
in your body.
likely. Yeah.
That's interesting. I know for me, I eventually stopped taking antibiotics and realized my sore throat would eventually go away and my immune system would take over. Um, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if that's the right solution or not to someone that's having the chronic strep infections. But I
Right.
realized that as kids, sometimes we just, my throat hurts. Can I go to the doctor? And your parents take you and you get the antibiotics again and again and again, or an ear infection or whatever. I almost wonder if that's what's breaking us down. But who knows? All right. So repeat infections, you got this ongoing strep, you finally got rid of it with a long course of antibiotics. Were you cured?
Certainly not. The strep throat infection was, in a sense, cured, but the lingering effects of the inflammation and the excess antibodies. I mean, I remember looking at my blood work, my strep titers were off the charts because I had just been fighting this off for so long. So the residual effects of that infection were the neurological symptoms, the inflammation, and everything else that I've talked about. And that
All right.
I dealt
Strep
with for a
titers,
very long time.
strep titers, you mean antibodies.
Correct.
Okay. Immune cells there to fight the infection that was no longer, but that's still there. And it's
Right.
now fighting you.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so we've got this possible across the blood-brain barrier in the brain causing inflammation because an immune response and inflammation is part of the immune response, causing tics, and it's undiagnosed. So, how is it being treated?
Yeah, for the first decade or so of this illness for me, it was essentially let's throw drugs at it and see what works. I was originally diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, which was essentially a label that was put on me, right? We didn't know what caused it. We didn't know what the cure was. The first prescription I was given was an off-label blood pressure medication. It was essentially, it had been shown in certain trials and even anecdotally that it could reduce tremors and tics. So we said, hey, try this, see if it works. And of course, it didn't really do anything for me.
Hmm. Should they have run a different test? How do you actually get diagnosed with pandas?
It's a clinical diagnosis, so it can be tricky, especially if the physician is not familiar with this illness. There's no blood test you can take to say, hey, you've got Pandas, right? It involves looking at your blood work, your medical history, your symptoms, taking certain tests for strep or other foreign pathogens, and putting the pieces together to determine, like, yeah, this is what's causing your illness.
Okay. So, drug after drug, trying to treat a symptom, trying to stop a tick or, stop, change your chemistry, really.
Yeah.
It's funny because they say it's a chemical imbalance causing this,
Right.
well, or a nutritional imbalance or an immune imbalance. It's something we don't really know, so we're drugging it. We're trying to change it with chemistry. You're not getting results. And then one day you found something that worked.
Yeah. After being on over 40 different prescription medications throughout the years, I was left. I had physician fatigue, first of all. I was sick of the doctor appointments, right? I was sick of the pills, sick of the medication. And during my time in high school, I had been introduced to cannabis. And so I was using cannabis recreationally, telling myself it was medical use for a long time. It was truly the only thing that I found that gave me some relief from my symptoms. But of course, I'm not condoning the use of cannabis, especially as a teenager. This is something that gave me relief, but I didn't know why it was giving me the relief.
Yeah, and at this point, going back to the time you were using cannabis, do you know if it was? Do you know what kind it was? Was it, that I know there's some just kind of keeps you in a happy, laughing mood, and there's some that's a little more trippy.
It was whatever the guy on the corner had, man. Like that was part of the problem. It was different every time I got my hands on it. And so it was not a medicinal use. There was so much variability from batch to batch. I didn't always know what the outcome would be. So I was left with certain times I'd feel great, other times I'd deal with paranoia and increased anxiety, other times I'd be lethargic and tired. So I had lots of side effects associated with that.
Yeah. Interesting. And that went on for how many years?
Oh, I discovered cannabis in high school through friends of mine. I found out I decided it was working for me and I stuck with it all through college. So just about a decade of using that. I kind of gave up on conventional medicine and just
Mhm.
started self-medicating for a long time.
Okay. So cannabis has chemical compounds called what that you needed, and what else were you getting in addition to it, and what did you discover finally?
So yeah, the chemical compounds are called cannabinoids. There's over 30 active cannabinoids that we're aware of at this time, and they have very powerful anti-inflammatory properties. There's other benefits that we're still learning and researching about, but what I discovered was that CBD, I call it nature's most powerful anti-inflammatory, was present in every strain of cannabis that I got my hands on. I just wasn't aware of it. We're all aware of that notorious THC, right? The chemical compound that induces intoxication and the high you feel from cannabis, but it wasn't actually the
That's
THC.
one cannabinoid, right?
Correct.
Okay.
THC is one, CBD is another. There's others. CBN helps with sleep. CBG helps with mood. There's these uh, the associations that we're aware of for all the different cannabinoids and terpenes and different compounds that are in the plant. CBD in particular is known for its anti-inflammatory properties, and it's non-intoxicating. So when I discovered that CBD was giving me that inflammatory relief, right, the basal ganglia inflammation, it was helping to reduce that inflammation and thereby dull my symptoms, help me to feel better and kind of take a deep breath and relax and refocus. And I didn't have to smoke, right? I didn't have to be intoxicated. I didn't have any of the health risks associated with the illicit use of cannabis. So it was an answer for me.
Right. Yeah. Uh, Tell us a little bit about the endocannabinoid system, which I would like to relate to maybe the opioid system. I remember the first time I heard endocannabinoid system, it was like, oh, come on, you're making this up because you're trying to
Right.
justify, getting marijuana, legalized. And it didn't make much sense to me. But then as a physician, I started realizing, wait, we have an opioid system, which is a certain set of receptors, and we make, endorphins and chemicals that bind to them naturally in our body. Um, what's the endocannabinoid system?
Yeah, like you said, it's very similar. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not certain that they teach the endocannabinoid system in medical school, at least not typically, right? Um, Ironically, it's the largest system in the body. I mean, it is active. It exists in our bodies from head to toe. And what's very interesting about it is, yes, in these plant-based phytocannabinoids that we've been talking about, THC, CBD, we can absorb them through our bodies through many different mediums, right? Orally, topically, whatever works for you. They enter our bloodstream, and those compounds bind to our endocannabinoid receptors, very similar to the opioid system. Similarly, we have endocannabinoids that are ideally naturally produced in our bodies. If we have a healthy body, mind, spirit, if we're giving our bodies the inputs they need to thrive and be healthy, ideally your body is producing these endocannabinoids in the right proportions, the right concentrations. And what they do is, well, the endocannabinoid system is supposed to maintain balance and homeostasis. Um, Preliminary research shows that it is related to everything from body temperature regulation to mood and stress control. And I mean, we're really scratching the surface on what we know about this for many reasons that you may or may not want to talk about today. Endocannabinoid system was discovered in the early 60s, and today we still don't really know much about it, almost 60 years later. But what we do
Mhm.
know is that you can supplement your endocannabinoid system if you're deficient, if you're not creating these compounds like you should in order to maintain homeostasis. You can supplement with those phytocannabinoids.
You enjoying the show thus far? One of the many health secrets that we have covered on the show is all around aloe vera, specifically drinking raw aloe vera. Our aloe vera has helped our customers effectively heal their gut, increase their intestine health, lower inflammation in the body, eliminate and/or decrease acid reflux, have glowing skin and hair, and so much more. Now, as a frequent member of our audience, you will be exposed to exclusive specials and coupon codes for the awesome products manufactured by Haley Nutrition. That's right, for simply being awesome and tuning in. You can get a mini discount to help you optimize and better your health. To see how we can help and support you on your health journey, tune into the episodes and listen for coupon codes that you can use at www.haleynutrition.com before you make your orders of raw aloe vera. Once again, it's www.haleynutrition.com. Now, back to the show.
I understand that there's also cannabinoids in things other than just marijuana or hemp.
Mm-hmm.
There are some foods, lots of herbs, spices. If I recall, I think cinnamon, cocoa. I forget what other sources, but I know there's things that were already, I think black pepper was one of them, that have these compounds that interact with the endocannabinoid system. I believe hemp just happens to be a more concentrated source.
Correct. As far as we know, hemp contains all of the phytocannabinoids that we know about in one. So it's like the mother, the source of all of these, right? And in fact, they're saying that these endocannabinoids are present in mother's breast milk. So you're giving it to your baby, and that's why we call it, milk drunk when you burp your baby and he kind of coos and lays back and is all happy. It's more like milk high in a sense because the baby feels great. You give that, everything you need to grow and thrive and feel good in the breast milk, but endocannabinoids, I think, contribute to that.
That's interesting. I never heard that before. And it's kind of neat because, your breastfeeding is, probably encouraged and desired in that way because of that provision.
Right.
On both ends, I like when my baby's calm and my baby likes to be calm. So, it's a win-win for the mom and for the baby.
Absolutely.
All right. Very, very neat. Now, I don't know if you know this. I actually used to have my own CBD line. Surprise.
Yeah.
I got rid of it in 2019 because I have a product that to me is more important in the sense that there's a lot of competition in the CBD industry. And there are some definite problems in that industry. One of which, participating it, is kind of frowned on by search engines,
Yeah.
government agencies, and it was interfering with my ability to be known for the other product that was very, very important that no one else was providing. So I decided, and not only that, I was using PayPal on my website at the time, and my accounts got froze for selling CBD on a website.
Yeah.
THC zero, not THC
Right.
free. If I understand, THC free is you're allowed a small percentage, but THC zero has to be undetectable, which is what we were. And I got my accounts froze, and they held, which means they held our money for a period of time, and we had to prove to them we weren't selling it anymore. Have you had any of those issues?
Oh boy. Yes. The banks colluded, right, and determined this was going to be categorized as a high risk product, And so I've had multiple accounts shut down over the years. Lately, it has become less of an issue, especially as we've scaled our business. We're working with higher level payment processors who know what we do. But certainly, if you're selling other products and you want to integrate CBD into your business, you're looking at a nightmare of paperwork and higher fees. And oh, yeah, I can understand why you made that decision, really.
Yeah, well, getting aloe vera to our customers was critical, and you're gonna, there's a lot of competition in the CBD market. Now, the reason I got into it originally, and I know you're gonna understand this, I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions that I know the answers to, but for the benefit of those listening, um, one of the reasons was what was in the competitors' bottles. For instance, you can
Mm.
explain what this means. If I find a bottle of CBD oil and on the front it says something like 100 milligrams, what does that tell you about that product?
Well, if they're being honest, there should be 100 milligrams of CBD in the bottle. But what often happens is either the potency is off and what's on the label does not match what's in the bottle, or you could have 100 milligrams of hemp oil in that product, meaning maybe it's 50 to 60% CBD and you're actually getting 60 milligrams instead of the advertised 100 milligrams. There's so much variability. And in the supplement industry in general, which is largely unregulated, it's hard to know what you're getting unless you see like third party lab test results, some kind of due diligence on the part of that company to know that you're getting what you're paying for.
Yeah. Well, what it told me was it was a cheap product. They didn't pay a lot for it, or it was very diluted if it was 100 milligrams. And, if they were looking at saying, well, a full dropper is going to be your serving and there's 30 servings in a bottle, 100 is the total that's in the bottle, you're getting very, very low amount.
Right.
Meaning for some people, they might need 100 milligrams per day. So they should just throw the dropper out, chug the bottle, and then go buy another one.
I think 100 milligrams would be a good potency for a cat, maybe. Certainly not a human being. Yeah, there's no chance you're going to get the threshold dose at that
Yeah.
potency. You're absolutely right. And what happens is I've had so many people reach out and say, "Oh, I've tried CBD and it didn't do anything for me." And so the question remains, how much were you taking? Where did you buy
Yeah.
the product on Amazon? Like Amazon
Right.
CBD is a banned category on Amazon. I can't sell my products on Amazon, so what are you buying, right?
Yeah. I'm going to clarify something you said. 100 milligrams would be maybe a cat dose. You're talking about a dropper out of the 100 milligram
Correct.
bottle, which
Correct.
might be 5 milligrams or something like that. Much smaller amount, maybe even three. Whereas a person will probably will probably notice a benefit somewhere between maybe 25 and 50 milligrams in a serving.
Right.
um, you're not gonna, yeah, so it says 100 on the bottle, that is 30 servings. And most products you're probably going to want something that's more like, at least 500 or 1,000 in the bottle.
Yeah.
Now we have something.
Yeah, and thank you for clarifying that. I will say dosing is probably the most common question that we get with Green Valley. People are confused about it. Then they've been fed so much information about this and that, and it's difficult to give you an accurate dose. I mean, yes, 25 to 50 milligrams, that's exactly what's recommended. However, that could vary greatly depending on, what you're dealing with, the severity of the symptoms, your body weight, your metabolism. All these factors play
Yeah.
a role in determining how much you need to get the relief and the results you're looking for.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. What other issues have you seen in the industry that would, maybe raise flags? You mentioned sometimes not necessarily what's on the label being in the bottle.
Yeah, so when we go to get a certificate of analysis, lab test results on our product, we're doing what's called a full panel analysis. So not only are we checking the concentration of the active ingredients, right, ensuring, yeah, there's no THC in the product, and all of our products are 100% THC free as well, THC zero, as you described. And for the reason for that is, we want to offer a product that's safe for everyone. You're not going to risk losing your job from taking this. But we're also testing for all kinds of compounds that may be present through the agricultural system or the extraction process. We're looking at residual solvents, microbiological contaminants, foreign pathogens, anything that may adulterate your medicine, really, right? At some point of the process. So those lab test certificates are available online. You can grab them, look at them all you want. But basically, what we're trying to say is look, there's nothing in here that's going to hurt you, right? It's safe. It's something that I take every day personally, right? I put the pain cream, the topical cream on my wife's shoulders and neck every night before bed. Like we all use it, and we know if we're putting it in our bodies, we want it to be safe for us and for our customers. So I think asking for those lab test certificates is critical. There's so many companies that are just not doing that. And that's like if you don't have a
Yeah.
COA, you don't know what you're buying.
Or you're getting a COA of a batch from 5 years ago when
Mm.
they tested their first batch.
Yeah, that's
Um,
common as well.
yeah. Check the date on the COA. It should be relatively recent. So, what made you jump in and say, I want to play in this market space?
My entry to CBD was sort of serendipitous. I was actually working on a farm in Colorado when I discovered CBD. I had moved out there as really pragmatically, just trying not to get in trouble with the law because of my self medication and my chronic use of this plant. But ironically, moving out there with cannabis use as my motive led me into the CBD space where I got away from smoking and I got away from THC. So I did not expect that to happen. But when I moved back to Virginia, where I currently live, CBD was largely unavailable. I mean, you could not find this stuff anywhere in 2015, and I needed to get my hands on this medicine that I knew was helping me. So I reached back out to my friends in Colorado. They sent me some active ingredients, and I started mixing up different concentrations of oils and topicals and brownies and gummies and anything, right? I just wanted to learn more about this and how it affected me and to find that dose that worked best. And so what happened was, as I was experimenting with this, as I was researching, people started reaching out to me. My friends, man, what are you doing? This is crazy. How is this legal? Right? My family found out about it. Grandpa wanted to rub some on his knees and see if it helped reduce his knee pain. Granny wanted to try it for sleep support. So all of these people started reaching out to me to learn more, and I realized, man, there's a bigger need for this stuff than just me and my tics and my anxiety. Like a lot of people can benefit from this. So I started giving it away to friends and family. I launched a very small product line and started going to farmers markets, and I mean people it just organically grew from there. People wanted to
Yeah.
get their hands on this stuff. And today we operate a state of the art manufacturing facility in Virginia. We're shipping to all 50 states and internationally. I've got like 30 different products. It's just amazing what it's become.
Wow. So let's talk about some of the reasons people use it. I wanted to say conditions, but I don't want to
Have
say
to be careful there, right? Yeah,
we're not treating diseases or anything like that. But people will use it to maybe manage certain challenges that they have.
sure.
uh, and you also mentioned the fact that it could be in a topical, a cream. Remember, your skin is a digestive organ. It absorbs and excretes just like your gut does. So, yes, you can apply it topically for helping with certain challenges. What are some of the challenges that people are experiencing where they'll want to use a CBD product?
Well, the three main concerns and categories that we hear people reach out to us about and leaving feedback in the form of testimonials. Um, our customers say that it helps with their sleep. It helps them sleep better, sleep longer, fall asleep faster, and get that quality of rest, which is just so critical. I'm sure you've talked about this on other shows, right? Sleep is so important. The second would be anxiety, and this has actually been shown to be effective in clinical trials. CBD has been shown to reduce anxiety naturally with no other changes to your lifestyle, which is pretty impressive. And thirdly, pain relief. So reducing inflammation, again, can help reduce swelling in your joints, right? Everything from neuropathy to chronic pain management, injury, and surgical recovery. In fact, right now we have a clinical trial ongoing with the University of Virginia. We're looking at oral CBD for chronic pain management. We're working with an osteopathic surgeon at the university who would like to use this with his patients in lieu of opiates and conventional pain meds. So I think there's some promising research going on right now that will give us a clearer picture of what this can actually do and how it can help. But I will say I've got thousands of testimonials that just say how effective this is. So the anecdotal evidence is there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how demonized the hemp plant has been. Today on my salad, I had, a big pile of hemp hearts sprinkled on them. Um, but I didn't even know about hemp hearts until maybe 5 years ago.
Mm.
I don't even know if they were on grocery shelves because hemp has been so demonized. And people think, oh, hemp, marijuana, get stoned.
Right.
Well, I understand you have a edible product that is not the oil, but is it available yet? I heard you say something about a protein.
Yeah, so that's our latest product release. It's hemp heart protein powder. So you said you have you eat hemp hearts on your salad. Hemp hearts are possibly in my opinion, the best number one source of plant-based protein. It's a complete protein. It's got all of your essential amino acids that you need for muscle development, or just a healthy lifestyle, right? Our proteins are part of our biological pathways that help us to grow and exist and stay healthy, and so it's critical that you have a clean source. The problem with so many protein supplements on the market today is, well, first of all, many of them are isolated and concentrated in a way that also concentrates some harmful products. Like, for example, whey protein often tests high for heavy metal contamination because of the agricultural processes that go into it. Um, Hemp heart protein does not need to be concentrated or heavily processed at all. It's the hull that surrounds the hemp seed. It's this little fibrous material, and essentially all we do is remove that husk from the seeds, pulverize it, and put it in a package. I mean, it's so close
Yeah.
to nature. It's so unadulterated and clean. I had some this morning in a smoothie. Like, we eat it every day. We love it. It's very rich in protein and a balanced omega 3s and omega 6s. So you're not going to get a whole bunch of one that could throw your system out of whack. You know more about that than I do, but the bottom line is this is an awesome protein source.
It sounds like the way we make our aloe vera. We, fillet it, run it through a grinder, put it in the containers, and we freeze it because it's a
Okay.
wet product. So it has to be kept frozen if you're not going to, add chemicals, preservatives, all that other stuff. I trust you're enjoying this podcast. So that you can enjoy it even more throughout April of 2025, get $10 off your purchase of $100 or more at HaleyNutrition.com. The coupon code is $10. That's 10BUCKS. You can use this coupon with on sale and already discounted bundled items. All right, enjoy the rest of the show. What other products do you see yourself making down the road from here?
Well, we're always experimenting with different things. Some things hit it off and do great. Other things turn out not so popular. We had a CBD infused honey that a lot of people loved, but we discontinued that because it didn't pick up much traction, and it was very expensive to ship. So our core product offerings are the topical, topical pain relief products, and the oral tinctures. It's not a true tincture. There's no alcohol. We use a MCT coconut oil base infused with our active ingredient, and that's it. There's 2 ingredients. It's very simple. We try to keep things as close to nature as we can, but That and the gummies are actually very popular. You walk down the supplement aisle now, everything's a gummy. So people want gummies.
Mhm.
We don't use any artificials, no flavorings or dyes or artificial colors, anything like that. We use superfoods for the colors. So again, we're trying to be holistic and natural and healthy where we can, but some people just want a gummy, which is fine.
Yeah, very nice. Now, I know you've made some other choices when it comes to your health, not just adding CBD. What are
Right.
some of the other things that you've done to, well, to get well from pandas and the challenges you've had?
Yeah, so CBD was absolutely the catalyst to my healing and my lifestyle change, but I never sell it as a miracle pill. Frankly, I don't think a miracle pill exists, right? Part of living well, there's certainly tools we can use to help us, but I think part of living well is really stepping back, taking a look at your lifestyle and identifying things that need to change. For me, it was moving away from illicit use of cannabis, right? Stopping smoking, stop hanging out around negative influences, stop being lethargic, stop eating inflammatory foods and junk and processed foods. And so when I was stuck in my symptoms, I was stuck. I mean, physically stuck in tics, mentally stuck in my self loathing and my substance dependency and all these things. It's very hard to make progress on your illness when you're in living that lifestyle and in that mindset. So I think what really changed for me is learning how to retrain my brain and change my lifestyle. And part of that was undergoing cognitive behavioral therapy and learning how to retrain my brain to respond differently to triggers that caused my tics and my compulsions and my anxiety, and then also to change my lifestyle. I started weightlifting, exercising on a daily basis. I cut out sugars and inflammatory foods that were driving the cause of my illness. I changed who I hung out around. I started doing things that made me feel fulfilled, such as playing drums and just getting
Ah,
outside more often. All these things that we probably know we should be doing, but many of us wait until we hit a health crisis to actually do them.
I played my drums for about a half hour this morning.
Awesome, man. Yeah, there's no better anxiety relief than just beating the drums and, you know, making music and contributing to something. It is very therapeutic.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you get to perform? Are you playing out in front of people?
I do. I have several buddies that I jam with and just have fun and make music together, but I play at our church every Sunday. So we have Thursday night rehearsal and Sunday morning performance in front of a decent crowd every week. And so it's very fulfilling for me.
That's great. That's real good to hear. What kind of church do you go to?
We are technically Church of God, but we're more or less non-denominational.
Mhm.
Um, but I do, we have an awesome worship ministry at our church. We're just so focused on not performing and not impressing people, but just bringing in the Spirit of the Lord to those who are in the building with us. And
Yeah,
so I said it's
that's great.
fulfilling to me, but really that's my worship is getting behind the drums and putting all arms and legs and everything into it.
Yeah, I like doing that myself too. I wasn't really gifted with the, voice of angels. So, I like to sing by hitting things with pieces of wood. Uh, much more fulfilling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, scripture says, worship with the clanging cymbal and the gong and all that. So,
That's
you
right.
know, where you're gifted, that's where you should put your efforts in. And we have very talented singers as well. There's one gentleman who plays the saxophone. We have keyboards. So there's an opportunity for everyone to serve based on what their skills and talents are.
I wish more kids were picking up instruments these days, though,
Mm.
and, having that same joy. I think there's enough musicians to replace us when we get old. I'm not sure, not fully confident. I'm hopeful in that. Or maybe it'll be a different kind of instrument. Maybe they'll just be, this might be their instrument right here.
No, don't say that. Oh man, just an aside. My friend yesterday, so my videographer, my photographer, we're close buddies, and I went over to his studio yesterday, and he said, "Listen to this, buddy." He pushes the space bar, and a song played that was written completely by AI. It had somebody
Yep.
singing. It had all the instrument. it was unreal. So I guess that's
I
the direction we're heading. But I
one of my podcast guests, he made a song about aloe vera, and all he did was submit the lyrics to whatever website, and it cranked out a few different versions of very cool sounding songs. Yeah, weird, definitely weird. But
one
like
other
yourself,
thing
I've
I'm
been playing.
one other thing
I was,
I've been doing
yeah,
is actually teaching the younger generation. So I have two students who, um, not official students, but I teach them drums once a week, and so that's been super fulfilling to have those mentees where I can just pour into them what I've learned. And so these are young teens, and they would love to replace me at some point. So empowering them
that's
as
great.
well with what I've learned is a really great feeling.
Now, I'm curious. Is your church online?
It is, yeah. It's Riverstone Church in Charlottesville, Virginia. So
All right, I'm
yeah,
gonna have to
welcome to
check out. So
stream.
hopefully, they got the worship included in the services there. We
They
can hear
do,
some. We can
yeah.
hear some. Excellent. We can hear some Ethan Pompeo drumming for the Lord.
10 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah, go ahead, tune in. We have a chat and everything. It's a good option for people who are not local or maybe struggle to get out.
That's great. I've been playing in the church probably for, I don't know, maybe a little over 10 years now, maybe 15 years. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Most Sundays, I'm getting older now. They're starting to work some of the younger guys in. So I might play, 3 Sundays out of the month now instead of, 4 and 5. But I definitely enjoy it. And, it's way easier than singing. All right, that's fun discussion. Glad to hear. I am going to check your church channel on YouTube. That'll be great.
Great.
Ethan, I want to thank you for joining me on the podcast. I think you've really given us a lot of beneficial content. Is there anything that I left out that I should have asked you?
I think it was a great discussion. I really do. I just one thing I like to leave people on is just letting them know that you know it's okay to admit that you have a problem. When you deal with these health struggles, like I did, for so many years, I battled that. I was ashamed of what I was going through. I did not want to talk about it. I was unwilling to admit that I had this problem, and it just put that weight and that pressure on my shoulders. There was no need for that. I find that being open and honest about your situation puts you in a position where you can get help and eventually where you can be in a position to help others. I like to consider myself mostly healed at this point. I still deal with the impact of Pandas in my life through some tics and some compulsions, but through the lifestyle changes I've made and using these tools we've talked about, I'm a completely different person now. And most people would never
Yeah.
even know that I had this illness. So talking about it on your show and events and everything that I do has brought awareness to this so that we're equipping people like yourself to effectively diagnose and treat people who are dealing with pandas. So I think being open, having dialogue about this is huge in relating to each other and moving the needle forward. So if that's encouraging to people, that's my goal.
For someone that wants to try CBD, they never tried it before, they're going to head to your website. What's the web address, and what one product would you suggest would be the starting point for trying CBD, and how would you suggest they use it?
Yeah, so it's greenvalleynutrition.com. You'll notice at the top my logo is a panda. So that's an indicator. It's a cute little panda bear. Our top selling product across the board is our original 1,000 milligram CBD oil drops. That's going to give you uh, anywhere from 30 to 60 servings, depending on how much you need. It'll give you enough time to kind of play around with dosage to see what works best for you. It's virtually flavorless, so it's very palatable for most people if you're averse to those herbal flavors you may have tried with other CBD products. But that's where we typically recommend people start. It's very easy to dose. It's fast acting. I put it under my tongue and wait about 30 seconds before swallowing, and I just feel that relief within less than an hour. So it's a dependable product that you can take with you and and use as needed.
I used to encourage a little bit of front end loading, meaning initially having a little more than maybe what would be called for. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's great. Again, with any supplement, I personally think the whole idea is to identify the minimum amount that achieves your maximum benefits. So you can start low and work up, or you can start at a higher dose. And the only real common side effect of CBD is drowsiness, which is why people use it for sleep support. That's typically seen in higher doses. So if you notice yourself feeling sleepy or lethargic during the day when you don't want to be tired, that could be a sign you're taking too much and you can cut back. But there's certainly no risk to taking a larger dose. I mean, CBD is one of the safest compounds. There's no toxic dose that we're aware of, so you're not going to get sick or hurt yourself by taking too much.
It just seems like there's a diminishing point of returns where more is not necessarily beneficial. But
Correct.
to find out where that is, sometimes having a little more at the front seems to, okay, now I see what this is doing for me. If I cut it in half, I wonder if I'll have the same benefit. Oh, I do. Great. So let me
Mm.
try to cut it in half again. Okay, now I feel like I need a little bit more. And then you find that sweet spot for you that works for you. All right. Well, that's excellent. I appreciate your time today. I'm going to make sure that there's a link to your website on in the description of the YouTube video, below the podcast, whatever channel people are consuming this content. There will be links to Ethan Pompeo's website. Thank you for checking out this podcast. Thank you for joining me, Ethan.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that episode today on The Dr. Haley Show. Make sure to hit subscribe on whichever platform you are listening to this. If this episode made you think of someone, go ahead, take a screenshot, and share this exact episode with them. You can catch the show notes for this episode on www.drhaley.com. If you want to geek out with Dr. Michael Haley on other radical health topics, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, where he posts exclusive video content. All the details are at www.drhaley.com, and we can't wait to hang out with you on the next episode.